On the 9th and 10th of November, a very important gathering is taking place here in Johannesburg in South Africa. It's the Southern Africa-Europe CEO Dialogue, and this brings together important stakeholders from Europe and Southern Africa to talk about very important business issues. A lot of key people will be at this gathering, and to tell us a little bit more about this and this 10th iteration of this gathering, I'm now joined by Pietro Minini, CEO of the European House Ambrossetti in Africa. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the channel.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So there's a few things that we're going to chat about, but let's talk first of all about the Southern Africa-Europe CEO Dialogue. 10 years down the line, take us back to 10 years ago, why it was established and what you were trying to achieve.
Oh, thank you so much, and let me also thank Ambassador Tambo, who suggested and encouraged to have this interview. Ambassador Tambo was the ambassador of South Africa to Italy when we decided to launch a bilateral summit between Italy and South Africa. I remember it was the time when South Africa entered in the BRICS, so it's a respected economy globally. So Italy wanted also to work more with these markets. And originally the summit was conceived to bridge 50 CEOs from South Africa and 50 CEOs from Italy with the aim to strengthen business ties between the two countries and also identify what could be possible industrial cooperation between the two countries and regions.
And you targeted CEOs. Why?
Well, you know, we target private companies, we target decision makers. As Ambrossetti, we are the #1 private think tank. We are a global management consulting firm and think tank, #1 in Italy, #4 in Europe, and among the global top 20. Our flagship event takes place on Como Lake, and there we gather just the CEOs or chairmen of companies, the owners of the companies or the decision makers. Also, it's a sense of being, ready to take decisions. I think also South Africa wants urgent actions and speed. So that's why we bring CEOs.
So what have you been able to achieve in 10 years, do you think?
So I think, several things. The most important for me is also people-to-people relationships. Because after 10 years, as you can imagine, or having organized an international event with several stakeholders from the public, from the private, from also other entities, ultimately, opens a page of friendship between the two countries, between the two regions. So I think this is very important, also from cultural relationships. From business side, of course, there were several deals that were signed from companies, between companies, also between company and institutions, but also between institutions. Deals in the field of automotive, in the field of renewables, in the field of tourism, e-waste, infrastructure, banking. So we really facilitated many agreements, even if it's not our primary goal. Our primary goal is to build an exclusive community of leaders. So a high-level platform where key decision makers from the government, from the private sector, and influential personalities can meet together and build trusted relationships.
We'll talk about this year's dialogue just now, but over the years, there must have been a good number of conversations that have taken place. Take us in and give us some highlights of some of the topics of conversation that have been important over the decade.
So I think over the decade, also because of COVID, we saw a lot of pressure around pharmaceutical, so how to develop a regional value chain, also to reduce a bit the dependency of other countries. That was also our problem during COVID. And so what could be the partnerships that could be developed with Italy, with the rest of the world, in terms of knowledge, in terms of value added here to foster the pharmaceutical. So that is one. Of course, automotive is a key sector in the country, and also there is a lot of presence from Europe, and I see there is a lot of attention also from the public sector to stress the importance of the automotive and how to share best practices also in light of an industry which is evolving over the years. And so these are some of the issues. Of course, we don't just talk about industries, but we are also quite focused on cross-cutting issues, cross-cutting topics. So every year we host a session on how CEOs view the future of African business. So we talk also about business climate, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, what are the key things that we can solve together. And also another important sector in our view is small and medium enterprises, which is a really cross-cutting topic. And also finance, banking, how to increase access to credit. In Italy we have the oldest bank in the world, so I mean we know that without a proper banking sector and access to credit there is no development. And so this is also another topic that is of interest for the audience. And of course, the energy challenge. And so over the years we saw a lot of, also from a regional point of view, companies interested in the renewables. And, but also the manufacturing companies are keen to understand the future of energy infrastructure in South Africa.
Tell me about how Europe has seen Africa over the years. I know sometimes the media has a certain narrative about the continent. Have these dialogues shifted perceptions, and have we started to see perhaps Europe looking at Africa differently?
I hope so. Of course, we don't talk about politics at our event. We just target business and investment relations. I think the CEO dialogue helped to have the right image of South Africa. CEOs come not just for aid, for cooperation, but also to make business with a win-win approach. And so I think that idea was very much, came up greatly. Thanks to our summit, we positioned well South Africa. We helped to position well South Africa in the region as a key market for Europe, and vice versa. Because also in the last decade, several CEOs from Africa came to visit us in Italy, in Europe, to understand opportunities and areas of possible agreement.
And how about Europe? Has it been more receptive to African businesses trying to land business there?
Well, it depends also on the sector. There are where in some industries, of course, companies need an engagement with the governments. And I think the response was very good. I remember a couple of years ago we led a delegation to Harare. We had a meeting with the government of Zimbabwe. Last year we had a delegation to Maputo to meet the president of Mozambique. And I think companies are very keen to work on the ground and to make business in this region.
What do they tell you in terms of their concerns? Things that they might have worries and reservations about that we need to think about?
One area I stressed before is the energy infrastructure that could be also much more promoted at the regional level, because from a mining point of view, for example, you need better connections from also landlocked countries to the ports. So this is one of the area. Also financial cooperation. So the financial institutions also might communicate better what are the financial schemes to cooperate together. So once again, access to credit not only here, but also for foreign companies to work here. So this is another area. Of course, it's a complex region, but from a political point of view, it's very stable. So it's also very good. I mean, not high risks to make business, to make money here, and so this is, we are branding a lot, you know, this region in the rest of the world. Also with a growing middle class, also solid infrastructure. So is. I mean, we are talking about SADC, and so in our view is consistent to talk about Southern Africa rather than Africa, because of course there are other latitudes that have other dynamics.
This year's dialogue, what are the big themes that you're hoping to discuss?
So one that is in collaboration with the Gauteng province, that has been a long-standing partner of our organization in South Africa, starting from the second edition, is a session on doing business in the Gauteng. Gauteng is the economic hub for the African continent. Companies should come, in our view, first here and then penetrate the region, make business in South Africa and in the rest of the continent. So we want to highlight what are the key industrial opportunities in the Gauteng. Another session is on African geopolitical investment and business outlook. So where we are now in terms of the future of continental geopolitical scenario and the investment and business dynamics. We have a session on how CEOs view the future of African business. That is a regular and well-attended session with CEOs from the two regions. We are hosting also a plenary session on agro-industry. So what could be the areas of collaboration in the sector in Southern Africa. Another one on energy transition and critical raw materials. There is also a lot of attention from Europe about critical raw materials in the regions, as you know, that are relevant for several industries, in the automotive, for example. And also we are hosting a political discussion on the future of South Africa, also in light of the elections taking place next year.
You talked about SMMEs a little bit earlier on. Is that also on the agenda? A lot of our young people want to get into this business game and they need vehicles. Is that something that's going to be on discussion?
Well, SMEs is a cross-cutting topic, and so you cannot face the challenges of agro-industry, of energy, of automotive, of pharmaceutical without talking about SMEs. We will have a session with the young business leaders. Of course, we want that African champions. So not SMEs is okay to start, but we want to grow and we want to have African multinational, new African multinationals working globally.
I think you talked about the future of South Africa, so this will be from a political standpoint. Energy, big question. What are businesses saying about how they see the future of the continent?
We will see. It's too early to respond to that question, but for sure there is an opportunity to understand where we are going next year. So from different angles, what could be the actions and commitments also to tackle unemployment and poverty, for example. Also where South Africa stands at international level, what could be the trading partners of the future, also what could be the agenda for a better country, for a better South Africa.
A big topic now is the Continental Free Trade Area, and I just wonder how Europe and European businesses are looking at this trade area and this trade agreement. It's encouraging us to look within and trade within. How does Europe navigate this?
Well, you know, it's one of our biggest achievements, the trade market in Europe, with the currency also. So the two things also are connected, as you know, in Europe. Is great. What can I say about Africa? I mean, Africa is bigger than Europe, and once again, it requires a very solid infrastructural network to connect all the 54 countries. But we hope that the agreement will be, will be a success in the next coming years. Even if, from my point of view, I see more regional, areas of trading. So Southern Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and North Africa. That could be maybe more fruitful.
Perhaps as a final question, how does European business view particularly South Africa's participation in a grouping like BRICS? And we're starting to see other nations being brought into the fold as well. What does that mean for a European platform trying to come into the continent?
Well, is also considering the trading partners of South Africa. You have America, you have China, you have Europe. We are aware that South Africa is talking with the East, with the West, and so is also Italy. Traditionally, have a very good relationship with the West, of course, also with the East, with the Middle East, with Africa, and so it's good, to have a fruitful and constructive relationship with everyone. Let me say that instead of having an opinion about South Africa, is having an opinion about BRICS. We know also at the last event that was successfully hosted by South Africa in August that the number of countries will increase. We have also to see how things evolve after the conflict between Israel and Palestine. There might be changes as a consequence, and we think also G20 is an important platform where almost every latitude is represented.
Pietro Manini, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the channel.
Thank you for having me.
How do I say muchas gracias?
Muchas gracias. That is Spanish.
Yes.
And,
what's the Italian version?
Molte grazie.
Molte grazie. Thank
Mazicati.
you so much. Thanks so much.